like that wasn't what we necessarily needed right now. So I've tweaked it a little bit. Can everybody see my screen? Are we good? Okay. So feel free, if you need to chime in, chime in. Let's just make sure that we're all being kind and respectful today, because I know it can be easier to be not respectful when you're not in person. So let's all just make sure that we're doing that. So normally this format is broken up into 5-minute activities that we can do to control stress. There are some that I've built into this, but I really just tried to give you guys some good tips on how to handle the current situation. So we'll go ahead and get started on that. So first of all, I just really want to acknowledge that I know that things are really weird right now, and that's, I don't want to say it's okay. It's not okay. With the situation right now, it doesn't feel okay for anybody, but it's weird for everybody, and we're going to get through it. So it's okay to feel not okay right now. It's okay to be completely stressed out, and it's okay to just really not know how to handle a lot of this situation, because none of us do. None of us know how to handle any of this. So if you feel that way, I want to give you permission to feel that way, because it's fine, and we're all kind of in the same boat with that. But we will get through this. This will pass. This will be a temporary, hopefully, blip in our lives, and 100 years we're not going to live 100 years from now. Let me rephrase that. 60 years from now, we can all be telling our great grandkids about how weird 2020 was, but we'll get through it. So we've all been on a ton of Zoom calls, and I think all of my coworkers have avoided making sure that there's stuff in the background. So if you guys want to, you're welcome to turn your cameras on. But one of the things that I've really been disappointed on all these Zoom calls that I'm on is I haven't seen anybody's animals. And so I was just thinking the other day that I'm like, you know what, I really want like a pet show and tell, and nobody has shown me their animals, and so I'm very disappointed by that. So if you guys want to turn your cameras on and you have an animal handy, I just kind of want to, in lieu of a traditional icebreaker, I want to see your pets. So show me your pets that you have stuck at home. So I have, that's Wally up on my screen. This is Wally. I made him come in for this presentation. You can see he's not terribly happy about it, but he's here. I gave him treats, so it's not the worst situation in the world for him. He got some treats out of it. But if any of you are home with pets, it's a pretty cool scenario to be stuck at home with your animals, honestly. I mean, I don't get to bring Wally to work with me under normal situations, so it's kind of nice to have him on my lap or by my feet throughout the day. So if you do have a pet at home, just know you already have one tool available for your toolbox of stress, and I'll explain what I mean by that in just a minute, because pets are really great for stress. Studies show that petting an animal can help reduce your blood pressure. It increases the good bonding hormone. It increases serotonin. Even just sitting and staring at a fish tank for 30 minutes has been shown to decrease your blood pressure. So it doesn't need to be the chunky furry type like my Wally. Okay, so I'm gonna try something interactive here, and let's all cross our fingers and hope that this works. So let me see if I can share this different screen with you. While you're waiting for me to do that, go to menti.com, just on your phone or on another browser while you're watching this, and enter code 589678. And that will allow us to participate together. So I'm gonna share this screen. Okay, so it will allow you to enter more than one answer. Can we all see that? So go ahead and enter in the things that are causing you the most stress right now. There's a bit of a delay. I was testing this out last night. But if you can enter in some of the things that are most stressful to you, this will create a word cloud. And the more times something gets entered, the bigger the word will get. So go ahead and throw some things up there.
What was the code again?
It's right there at the top of the screen, 589678. See school and family, and I think we can all agree with that right now. Toilet paper. Okay. So it looks like our families are all driving us nuts. I'm in the same boat right now with, I've got 7-year-old twins. And so I'm also in grad school, and I'm obviously trying to work. And so I'm trying to do all of those things from home, and then getting homeschooling thrown on top of that is just not the easiest scenario. So yeah, I think that's probably true for most of us. Family and work and school, money, social distancing is rough, right? I think we're all realizing just how social creatures we are. Um, for everybody who thought that they could go move out to a cabin for a month with no internet connection, we're all learning that that is definitely not true. So maybe we're learning a lot about ourselves in this process too. Healthy meals, disinformation, misinformation for sure. Health, news. Your bed is stressing you out? I hope not. Everything virtual, yep. Not having a pet right now, I bet that probably feels like it sucks right now. That would be helpful. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Oops, I don't know what I just did. Okay, so I want to learn more about you guys. So are you a full-time student, part-time student, parent, working from home? It should allow you to select all if they all apply to you. Okay. So a lot of us are trying to work from home right now. A lot of us have kids at home right now. A lot of us have either full or part-time school load on top of it. Yeah, so it looks like there's 12 participants on the line right now. Or not 12 participants, but 12 answers in. Let me see how many participants we have. So we have 13 participants. So it looks like for the most part, we are all juggling more than one thing. We're all trying to be more than just a student or more than just an employee while we're all stuck at home. Okay, thanks for playing along with that. That helps me kind of understand who the audience is. Like I said, right now things are just weird, and it's hard to um, know your audience when you're used to having a physical audience in front of you. Okay. So normally, like I said, we do a different version of this presentation. With student wellness, we do all of our programming around 8 different dimensions of wellness. So you can see up there on the screen, there's intellectual, emotional, and I have this little thing in front of mine. You think I'd have memorized. Social, physical, spiritual, financial, environmental, occupational. So there's a lot of different things that make us who we are and that make us well, right? So wellness is not the same thing as being healthy. You can be healthy and be very unwell. So I'm sure we can all think of somebody who goes to the gym every day and makes sure that they eat right, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they are a well person. You need all of these different dimensions of wellness to really be at your full potential and really to feel and do your best. So we do a very holistic approach to wellness. We really look at this entire wheel and not just being healthy. But I want to point out that these different domains are interconnected, so they don't stand on their own. And I think right now we're really finding out how much like emotional wellness ties in with our social wellness, and how those are overlapping, and how our emotion or our occupational wellness can impact our physical wellness. And so those are all very much interconnected, and you can't really separate each one of them. But I want you to ask yourself where stress fits in this wheel. Because obviously there isn't one little pie piece that says stress, so it has to fit in there somewhere, right? So usually I throw this out to the class, but can't really do that right now, so I'll give you the answer. But stress fits in every area of this wheel. If you're not doing your best in each one of those areas, or if you feel like there's a deficit in any one of those areas, I guarantee that it's going to cause you stress. So it's important to be able to manage stress for your comprehensive wellness and well-being. I can give an entire presentation on the dimensions of wellness, but that's not what we're here for. So if you want some more information about the dimensions of wellness and some of the other things that we do with student wellness, you can go to weaver.edu/student wellness. Each one of those domains has its own separate page, and all the different resources on Weaver's campus that can provide you some service in that area. Right now, most of those things, just like we have set up some online services. So don't feel like just because you're not on campus that those services don't still exist. They're somewhere. So I really encourage you to check it out. There's also tips on each one of those little segments for things that you can do on your own to improve your wellness. So that's probably pretty helpful right now too. Okay, so what is stress and why do I have to deal with it? You hear from people all the time that are like, stress is, ridiculous. Why do we even have to have stress? And can't I just have no stress? And well, no, is the easy answer to that. But we need to not look at stress necessarily as a bad thing. Stress at its most basic element is a motivator. We basically evolved to have a fight or flight response. And so that helps us either fight this bear in this picture or run away from this bear in this picture. It also helped to motivate you to do things like plan ahead for your survival needs. So if you were a hunter-gatherer and you didn't really have a set place, then you had to plan ahead for how are you going to get your next meal? How are you going to make sure that you have a roof over your head? And those aren't really things that we need to deal with on a daily basis. We're not on a daily basis stressing out about hunting this bear or hunting a deer, although we might still be stressing out about where our next meal is going to come from. But that motivator and that form of stress has changed and evolved as well. So it's now evolved to help us do the things that we need to do in life to have a good life in other ways, whatever that means in the modern world. So maybe that's graduating college, maybe that's having a fulfilling relationship. And so there are a lot of different ways that stress can motivate us to get those things that we need. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, and it's not really something that we want to think of as something we need to cure, because it's not. If you didn't have any stress in your life, you would have no motivation to do the things that you need to do. And so that's not what we want. What we don't want, though, is chronic stress. So chronic stress is what's bad for your health. And that's when you're in that fight or flight response a lot. So our body is not really meant to stay in that phase for a long time. And so then it starts to do things to your health, like it'll weaken your immune system, which is definitely not what we want right now with a virus spreading around the world. It can also cause cardiovascular issues, and that kind of runs the gamut. So it can cause high blood pressure. It can cause a weakening of the arteries. So it causes a lot of cardiovascular issues. Digestive issues and stomach trouble. A lot of people get a lot of stomach aches or digestive issues when they're really stressed out. It can really mess with your sleep. And if you're not sleeping, what kind of a domino effect is that going to create for the rest of your health if you're not getting enough sleep? And then it can really start to take a toll on your mental health. So I hope that makes sense, that I don't want you to not feel stressed, but I want you to be able to manage that chronic stress and prevent it from becoming that chronic stress. So that's kind of the differentiation there. So we all need a stress management toolbox. There's no one thing that's going to work for every person. And even when you've found a bunch of things that work for you, there's no one thing that's going to work for every situation. So we need a variety of tools so that we can be able to address the different situations that we're presented with. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to give you guys today, is to give you some tools to stick in your toolbox for when you're presented with stressful situations. Like I said, I've tweaked it for the current situation, but most of these tools are still relevant even when our life kind of gets back to what we think of as normal. So the first thing that we need to do is to practice deep breathing. This is really the most important tool. So if you guys are in a comfy spot, that's great. If you're not in a comfy spot, go find a comfy spot. I am currently sitting on my bed because it's the only place in my house that I can shut the door and not have children bother me for an hour. So it's pretty comfy. If you're on your bed, go ahead and either sit or lay down in a way that's comfortable for you. So like I said, we want to learn how to deep breathe, but we want to do it right. And most of us don't do it right. Most of us actually breathe wrong. We've learned to breathe in a way that doesn't stick our bellies out, in a way that is more shallow and doesn't actually oxygenate your body. And so we're going to learn the right way. So let me see if I can push my camera away so I can model this a little bit better. Okay, so we want to put one hand on your chest and then one hand, I don't know if you guys can see, but like right at the top of your stomach right there. So it's right at the base of your rib cage, kind of where your, the part where your ribs get squishy in the middle. Put your hand right there. So you want to breathe in slowly through your nose, and you should feel your stomach rise, but this hand should stay still. And that's usually what most of us are doing wrong. For most of us, we breathe into our chest and we have the shallow breaths because we try not to push our bellies out. But we want to use this muscle right here. It's called your diaphragm. You want to be able to use that to breathe so that it's really supporting your lungs. So take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold this still and breathe it all the way down into your belly. And then when you exhale, exhale slowly through pursed lips. And sometimes it helps if you visualize that you're going to blow bubbles, like this picture that I included. So when you breathe out, blow bubbles, basically. And if you want to imagine that your stress is going into those bubbles and floating away, that can be an even more powerful tool. So let's all take a second. Let's take some deep breaths together. Okay, so okay. So I'm going to move on, but I want you all to keep deep breathing like that. That's going to be a foundation for a lot of different tools that we offer. So everything else from here on out, I'll have a disclaimer that I don't care if you decide that none of this works and this all sucks for you and you hate it, that's fine. Not everybody is going to like every different activity and every different tip that we do. So your goal today is to build your own personal toolbox, and that's going to look different for every one of you, with the exception of deep breathing. I really do want everybody to learn how to deep breathe. Deep breathing actually tricks your body into thinking that you're not in that fight or flight mode. So when you're in fight or flight, your respiration increases and you breathe really fast, and that increases your blood pressure, and it also releases a flush of glucose into your body to get you to prepare to either fight or run. So this will trick your body into thinking, okay, I'm fine. I'm not in fight or flight. I can calm down. I don't need to have these physiological processes happen. So it'll actually physically calm you down. So if you're not doing very good at this right now and this was hard for you, sometimes people who first try this will say, should it be painful? No, it shouldn't be painful. So if it is, it's probably just because your body has adapted to breathing wrong, and we need to teach it how to breathe correctly. So if that was hard for you while you were sitting up, try it laying down. Our body actually breathes normally, naturally in two different situations, and that's when you're laying down and when you're going to the bathroom. I don't necessarily want you to practice this in the bathroom, but practice it laying down. Okay. So once you've mastered deep breathing a little bit, then we can move on to a form of meditation called mindfulness meditation. So a couple things before we try a meditation activity. Most of us have a kind of a mental image of what meditation looks like. And you can go ahead and just throw that out because maybe it looks that way for you, maybe it looks that way for some people, but it doesn't need to look that way. So there are a lot of different ways that people can practice meditation, and I'll get to those in just a second so that you can see some other forms and you can kind of look at some different things that might work better for you. A lot of people also say that they don't like meditation because it's hard, and it is hard. It's hard at first, but it does get easier. So the more you practice it, the better. I'm one of those people that I don't really like, honestly, full disclosure, I don't like traditional meditation. I don't like sitting for a long period of time or laying and really just having to sit with my thoughts because I'm not good at that. Does that mean I can never get good at that? No. Does it mean that I need to get good at that? No. So if this doesn't work for you, that's fine. You don't need to feel like you're some kind of a failure for not being able to meditate. But if you're not good at it and you really do want to get better at it, you can get better at it, and you will. So we're going to learn a particular type called mindfulness meditation, like I said. Mindfulness is a completely different concept from meditation, but it's all about just being aware of the moment without judging it. So when it starts to feel hard, just be aware that it feels hard, but don't place any kind of value or judgment on the fact that it is hard. There's also a lot of other ways to be mindful. And when I do this presentation, we have a couple other activities that we do together. So if you'd like me to send you those activities, I'm happy to do that. Just email me at studentwellness@weber.edu and I can send that off to you. If you like this activity, just begin by practicing for a few minutes a day. 5 minutes is a good starting point. And then from there, when 5 minutes starts to feel like something that you've got a good handle on, you can increase that up to 10, 15, 20 minutes a day, whatever starts to feel like it's really being beneficial to you. Okay, so along with that, let's go ahead and try this activity. And Wally has settled in on my little script here, so he's very grumpy about me moving him. Okay, so we're gonna do something together. So like I said, go ahead and get your nice deep breathing going. We really want that to be the foundation. We're gonna really focus on our breath. So I want you to get into a comfortable, quiet place. If you're not already, begin relaxing your body. If it's easier for you, you can go ahead and close your eyes or you can leave them half open. I can't see any of you anyway, so if you closed your eyes and gotten a laying down position, nobody would be the wiser. So feel free to do whatever feels most comfortable to you. So as you breathe in and out, start to pay attention to your breathing. Notice the air moving in through your nose and out through your mouth, but don't overbreathe. Allow your breath to move naturally as you observe it. Breathe in and out as you connect with each inhalation and exhalation, noticing how it feels as you begin the inhalation, how it feels as you are between the inhalation and the exhalation, and the sensations of your breath on the exhalation. Follow your breath through to a full cycle from the beginning of an inhalation, where your lungs are full, back to when they're empty. Notice the rise and fall of your belly, the air moving in and out of your nostrils, and thoughts and feelings arise in the form of judgments, wondering if you're doing this right, thinking about what you have to do later, or questioning if it's worth your time to be doing this. Simply observe the thoughts without added judgment and let them go. Once you realize your thoughts have hijacked your attention, don't struggle with them. Gently bring your attention back and focus on your breath. Every time you notice your attention leaving your breath, bring your awareness back to concentrating on your breathing. If your mind gets caught in a chain of thought, and it probably will, gently step out of the thought stream and come back to the sensations of your breath. Each time it wanders off, continue patiently bringing it back. If you're aware of body discomfort, hunger pains, sensations of hot or cold or an itch, just breathe and watch them without doing anything about them. There's nowhere else to be, nothing else to do, but notice your breath for 5 minutes. So if you had more time later, I encourage you to repeat that and go for a full 5 minutes. Um, I think that might be kind of awkward for us to do right now, for you guys to just sit here and breathe and stare at me for 5 minutes. But after a 5 minute period has passed, when you practice this later, you would open your eyes and bring your attention back to the room. Notice the colors, sounds, and textures around you. Stretch and breathe normally, noticing how much more vivid and acute your mind is and how much more calm, cool, and connected you feel to yourself at the present moment. So again, that's just a moment for you to be able to take a pause and a breath and focus on what's happening in the here and now, and to practice that mindfulness. So I really do encourage you guys to try that later when you have a minute. 5 minutes is not much, and so if you like to do that for 5 minutes at a time, you can probably do that multiple times a day. And now imagine if you did that before you took a test, and how much more that might reduce the anxiety for you when you do that. Okay, so like I said, there are a lot of different ways to meditate. There are guided meditations. If you like kind of how I just walked you through that, there are a lot of other guided meditations, and you really just need to sit and listen to somebody. If you're struggling with your thoughts wandering when you first try to practice this, those can be really helpful because it gives you something to focus your thoughts on. There's also guided imagery, where maybe if you like being on a beach or if you like being in the forest, somebody will guide you through that and you can kind of visualize like you're in a forest. Progressive muscle relaxation is another one. You can look up tons of videos for these on YouTube. There's also lots and lots of websites that are offering free meditations right now. So you're welcome to look those up if these sound like something that'd be interesting to you. But progressive muscle relaxations are good for noticing where there's tension in your body and actively releasing them. Creative pursuits can even be a way of meditation, especially things like knitting, painting, things that require you to use your hands. Studies have shown that when you're using your hands to create something, it actually creates the same kind of brain waves that meditation produces. And so if you have a hobby that keeps your hands busy and involves some level of creativity, it does the same good stuff for your brain as meditation. Journaling can also be a really good way to meditate, especially if it's a part of like a regular daily practice. Maybe you spend a couple minutes in the morning journaling, or it's an end of day thing, but that can also do the same kind of benefits as meditation. And then there's also visualization. So if you find yourself really stressed out, think about what your happy place is. If you're struggling on all the Zoom meetings that we're all in right now, put your happy place up as your background and on the virtual background so that you can maybe pretend that you're there. I've been on a lot of calls lately and people put up virtual backgrounds as if they're actually on campus. It might help you feel like things are normal and things are going on, even if just for a couple minutes at a time. Okay, another similar technique is called stop. So when you notice yourself feeling anxious, you would implement this stop technique. So S obviously stands for stop. So stop, take a breath, notice that you're feeling anxious, just stop, pause for a minute, hit the pause button. T is for take a breath. So again, do those nice deep belly breaths for a minute, and practice a moment of mindfulness. Feel your feet on the ground, pay attention to your surroundings, bring your thoughts to the present and not the future. A lot of anxiety happens when we let our thoughts get really far into the future. So this is a good way to just take a minute, bring it back to now, and pause for a minute. O is for observe. So observe what's happening inside yourself. Are your muscles tense? Is your back hurting? Is your heart racing? Are you breathing really heavy? And actually ask yourself, how am I right now? And that can actually be really powerful. P is for proceed. So when you've had a moment to really walk yourself through the other processes, then you can proceed with more awareness of yourself and what will help you feel better. Is that going to be to call a friend or to call your mom? Is it going to be to go take a walk around the neighborhood, get a little bit of sunshine? Is it going to be that maybe you need some me time tonight and you need to just go take a nice hot bath and tell everybody to leave you alone? Whatever that is, proceed with that knowledge and you can move along with the rest of your day. We're going to talk about a similar technique to this in a little bit, but one of the activities that I do with students when I do the in-person presentations is this one. So if you have a piece of paper handy and you want to do this along with us, go ahead. If you want to try this later, that's fine too. But a lot of the times we get all this stuff jumbled up in our head and we're sitting there worrying about all the things that we have to do and all of the different things that are stressing us out. And it's all just kind of this like mean jumble in our brain, and it makes it hard for us to pick out all the bits and pieces because it's all kind of in there rattling around. I don't know if you guys ever feel like that, but I do all the time. So something that can be really helpful if that sounds like you is to get it out of your brain and onto a piece of paper. So that just helps to get that jumble out and put it somewhere else. And if it's not in your brain and it's somewhere else, then that can help you to clear up some of that mental space. So if you have a piece of paper handy and you want to give this a try, do it. So I like to set a timer because if I let myself just have an unlimited amount of time to write down the things that are stressing me out, then I'll be like, oh yeah, that too. Oh, this person's stressing me out. And there's always things that stress you out, and you can write an endless list. So give yourself a timer, give yourself some boundaries on how long you're going to let yourself do it. I usually do this for 2 minutes when I do it in person with students. The 2-minute timer is great. In those 2 minutes, you can write down everything that's stressing you out, worrying you, concerning you, everything that's in that mean jumble up in your brain. Get it on the paper. Once it's on the paper, fold that paper into an airplane. And a lot of people surprisingly cannot fold airplanes. And so if that's you, that's fine. The point isn't that you can fold an airplane. The point is that you're going to put it into a format that you can throw it. So a crumpled up paper ball works just fine for that too. So if you want to crumple it into a paper ball, crumple. In fact, that can actually feel kind of good to just like really crumple a piece of paper. So fold it into an airplane, crumple it into a ball, whatever you want to do. And then throw that as far as you can, or throw it into like if you can see a garbage can on the other side of the room, throw it there and try to make a basket. So just throw it away from you and then visualize that you have thrown your stress away too. Is that going to be a permanent fix? No. Are those stressors going to come back? Yeah, because you didn't actually solve for it. But what you did was get them out of your brain for a minute so that you can have a little bit of mental clarity to be able to think through that process. So that might be beneficial for some people. Another thing that's really important is to learn how to control the things that you can. So right now, a lot of things feel like they're out of our control, right? I mean, we have no control over the fact that we're all stuck at home. We have no control over the fact that the grocery stores look like the apocalypse has just hit. None of that is anything we have control over. But if we let it control us, then it's going to give us a ton of stress. And so we have to first be able to separate the things that we can control and the things that we can't control. So again, if you have another piece of paper, you can draw it like this, or you can make 2 lists. I kind of like the visualization of the circle of, you know, this is the things that I can control and all of this are things that I cannot control, but it's really up to you. So brainstorming the things that you can control and then brainstorming the things that are outside of your control can be a beneficial activity. Hint though, the things that you can control are you. That is it. You can't even control your kids. Trust me, I've tried. My kids are uncontrollable. So focus on the things that you have direct control over, okay? So if having the news on constantly is stressing you out, you have control over having the news on. If your friends not obeying social distancing is stressing you out, that is totally outside of your control, right? But you can control the fact that you're staying away from other people and that you're social distancing. So make those 2 lists and kind of differentiate. I have control over this. I don't have control over this. Okay. Um, Even then, it probably feels like the list of things that you don't have control over is still big, and that probably still just doesn't feel great. And when we have a lot of things that are outside of our control, it feels awful. Um, so the only thing we can do, because we can't control other people, we can't control the situation, we can never get that control, but we can learn to accept the situation. Is this going to be an easy process? No, absolutely not. Um, I don't know how many of you are, I mean, I am a total control freak. I like to have control over things. And I recognize that sometimes that's not the healthiest thing for me. And so this is kind of a constant struggle in my life. And it probably is true for a lot of you too. And that's okay. Um, the point is that you're trying, and the point is that you're working at it and doing better at it. So I tell students all the time, it's progress, not perfection. So every time you catch yourself being trying to control the things that you can't control, or letting your focus get outside of the things that you can control, just keep working at it. And that's really all we can ask. So if you're thinking 10 steps ahead of yourself all the time, maybe you're coping with the situation by downplaying the impact. I know I was doing that for the first 2 weeks, because facing it was scary, and facing that the reality of being stuck at home for who knows how long with 2 little kids in the house is kind of a scary situation, right? You might also be suppressing your emotions to make you feel normal. So maybe you actually are pretty stressed, and maybe you are actually pretty sad, and that's okay. But a lot of us, especially in Utah, have been taught how to suppress our emotions and to not feel them, because emotions are ugly and scary and difficult at times. And so we've been taught not to do that. And so if you catch yourself doing these things, it probably indicates that there's a situation that we need to learn how to accept, and that acceptance can really help us find some relief from those feelings. So take things one day at a time, and really just give yourself permission to feel, give yourself permission to grieve the loss of things. And maybe for some of you, you were expecting to graduate at the end of this semester, and you're not going to be able to walk right now, and that's something worth grieving. And it's really okay to grieve that, and it's okay to be frustrated, and it's okay to be, on the flip side, grateful that you have a job, or grateful that you aren't scared of how you're going to pay the bills, or whatever else you have to be grateful right now. It's okay to feel grateful. A lot of people feel guilty that they feel grateful for that situation, and that's okay to be grateful for that. So trying to find some acceptance for those things that you can't control, it's an ongoing process, but it's really important. So for a lot of people, these things that they can't control come from the news right now, or they come from Facebook, or they come from Instagram, or wherever else they're getting this information that is completely outside of your control, but it's stressful. So right now we do want to stay informed, but we don't want to be stressed over being informed. And so if this is one of your stressors at the moment, be aware of that. So just be aware that constantly checking the news may not be the most helpful thing for you. And for some of us, maybe we aren't actually acknowledging that that's causing us a lot of stress right now, because in our minds we're like, well, I need to know what's going on. I need to be aware of these things. And maybe it is actually creating a lot of stress for us that we're just not admitting to right now. So the World Health Organization recommends limiting your news intake right now to no more than once or twice a day. And if you're checking it more than that, it's probably going to be valuable to you to step back a little bit. But let's be choosy about the sources of information that we're looking at. So make sure we're looking at reputable health organizations like the World Health Organization, the CDC, or even state and local health departments. Make sure that if you're listening to a health expert, that they actually are a health expert, that they have a degree behind their name, that they have the experience behind their name, that they're not just somebody who has a YouTube platform or an Instagram platform. And I say this as somebody who works in the wellness field. And so in the wellness field, we see a lot of people who have no degree, who have no foundation foundational knowledge who give wellness advice. And so we really do need to apply a filter to all of the different health advice that we get and make sure that that is coming from a reputable source. And that can help cut down on some of that anxiety that we feel. So like I said, a lot of these tips are going to be helpful when our life gets back to normal. This is still going to apply, right? So maybe don't get your health information from an Instagrammer. Be really careful about what you see on Facebook. Make sure you're vetting that. Just be really careful and choosy about the information that you take in. Okay. So like I said, we're going to do a similar thing to the stop activity, and this is an emotional check-in. So like I said a slide before, we might not be realizing how much stress the news is causing us. That doesn't mean that it isn't doing it or that we don't feel stressed. We get really, really good at ignoring our emotions because we have to get through the day, right? We have to be able to function. And so we learn how to just kind of tune these out. And that's not great. So we need to get in the habit of these emotional check-ins. So when you've mastered that stop, then we'll take it a step further. So stop and ask yourself, how am I feeling, a few times a day? And it can be really tempting to just say, I'm fine. That's not what we want to do. We want to name the emotions. And so we want to stop and say, okay, really, what am I feeling right now? I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed at everything that is going on right now. And I'm feeling somehow more busy than I've ever been in my life. And that doesn't feel great. And that feels overwhelming. And I'm feeling really, honestly, right now, I'm feeling sad for my daughter because she had to go in this morning and get some minor surgery. She was actually tongue-tied. They usually catch that at birth, but she's 7. And so they took a little laser, and it's minor, but you know, all you parents on there, when you see your baby cry, it's, ugh. So that's rough. And so being able to name those different emotions and being able to say, this is how I'm feeling about this right now, can give it a lot of an outlet. But we want to be descriptive. So we don't just want to say, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm sad. We want to be able to really pull that out and to really dig deep. One word just is not going to cut it. One word is not going to really get to the emotional depth that we as human beings feel. And then from there, you can identify why you might be feeling that way. So like right now, I'm feeling stressed and sad because, you know, my daughter feels bad and I feel bad for her. And it's a horrible thing to see your daughter. And I'm stressed out because I'm overwhelmed. And so what are the things that can cause those emotions? And then that'll help us move on to the next step. But before we do, I want to point out, do not go straight to the obvious. And right now the obvious is coronavirus. And so right now people can say, I'm stressed because coronavirus. You had other stressors before this situation hit, right? So having school online is obviously not ideal, or we would have all been taking our classes online to start with. And so that's not what we chose. But we still had our classes. We still had the same homework. We still had the same professors. We still had a lot of the same stressors. And it's okay for those stressors to have nothing to do with the coronavirus or nothing to do with social isolation. So really be careful to pin down the things that are causing you to feel the way that you're feeling, and don't go straight for the obvious. And this might not be a quick process. This may not be something that you can do in, 30 seconds. You may actually need to go, lock yourself in the bathroom to be left alone for a minute to figure this out, and that's fine. Once you've got it thoroughly identified and you really know what the root cause is, then you can understand how to fix it. But you can't fix it until you understand it. So once you understand it, then you can start to say, okay, now what's going to make me feel better? Is that turning off the news? Is it, in my case, maybe it's going to be that I'm taking the afternoon off and just hanging out with my daughter because that's what she needs right now, and that'll make me feel better. So whatever it is that you can control, that is within your control, do it. Because for us to say, well, right now I'm frustrated and I'm stressed, and so I need to get Trump out of the office in 2020. We can do our part for that, but ultimately we don't have control over that. So that's kind of the differentiation there. So really figure out what are the things that are going to help me feel better right now, and make sure that that's something you have control over. And just a caveat, you know, as long as your emotions aren't harming other people, there's no wrong way to feel. So, for instance, it's okay to feel frustrated. It's not okay to take that frustration out on other people around you, especially right now, because we are all stuck in our houses with our families. And I bet all of us kind of want to throttle our spouses right now. But it's not okay to be like, I hate you, and really just to take that out on them, because that's not fair. So you might need to do a little bit of a self-check on that too. Okay, when everything feels so crummy and outside of our control, it can be really hard to see the good things that are happening in the world, and there still are good things that are happening in the world. So normally I have students, again, take out a piece of paper, set that timer for 2 to 5 minutes to give you a little bit of boundary and constraint, and make a list of all of the good things that are going on. Because it's probably pretty dang easy to make that list of all the things that are stressing you out. It's a little bit harder to make a list of the things that are positive, which is kind of sad, because we should be able to say, oh, all these things are great. But we focus on the things that are the hardest for us, and that's just really natural. And so we really need to retrain our brain to focus on the things that are good. So this little short activity can help you retrain that. So like I said, make a list of all the positive things as you can. What's going on in the world right now, or what's going on in your life right now that are positive. So like I showed my cat at the beginning of this presentation, I get to be talking to you guys right now and giving this presentation, hanging out with my cat. And that's pretty cool. And I get to be sitting here on my bed, and that's pretty cool. And so there's still some positive things that you can list. The background on this, I actually went for a walk with my daughters just because we desperately needed to get out of the house on Sunday. And so we went and found an area where no one else was around and just went for a walk. And all the wildflowers were blooming. And so that was just a really good reminder to me that things are still happening, and the world is still going on, and there's still good things that are happening. And so I stopped for a minute to take a picture of the flowers, just to have that moment of mindfulness. So along with that, something that some people find helpful is to start to collect positive things, because sometimes when you're feeling anxious or depressed or really stuck in the mud with your bad feelings, it can be really hard to think of all the positive things and to come up with that list, because again, you're just stuck in the mud, and that's not a place that you're at right now. So collecting this positivity can be really helpful, so that when you're in that feeling, you can look at that and kind of help to pull yourself out of that funk for a minute. Now, obviously, this is not going to pull you out of the funk if you have a clinical diagnosis. And so I'm not trying to imply that, like, oh, just go look at pretty pictures and you won't feel depressed. That is not it at all. But we all have moments where we are in a crummy mood, and we do not want to move out of our crummy mood. And so this can be helpful for that. So you need to find a format that works for you. For some people, that's a vision board. I don't dig vision boards, and that's okay too. So if you like it, cool. If you don't, that's fine too. So what I like to do is I have a couple different Pinterest boards. And I also like to follow positive things on Instagram, especially. So that as I'm scrolling through, it's not negativity. It's like pictures of kittens and birds doing dumb things and positive messages. And that's most of what my Instagram is these days, because it helps make me feel better. But whatever format works best for you is great. But collect things that really make you feel better by looking at it or reading it. So that could be funny pictures. It could be pictures of cute animals. Could be pretty scenes, like maybe it helps you visualize that you are standing in a meadow with flowers, or that you're at the beach. Collect a couple images for that. And then some quotes that resonate with you, maybe some things that help you feel inspired and help you get past the moment. Those can be helpful too. So like I said, I've got a couple Pinterest boards. I've got one of like just funny images for when I need to laugh. I have one for beautiful things that I, you know, when I need to feel inspired or feel like, okay, this world doesn't totally suck. There are some beautiful things. So collect those things that help to remind you that there are positive things out there for when you need that moment. One of the ways that we can help practice that too is to keep a gratitude journal, and this looks different for different people too. So maybe it's a physical journal, maybe it's a gratitude jar. I've seen some actually really good ideas of people putting up like a giant like a big vase, or it needs to be big because you'd be surprised how much you can collect, but something big. And then every time something really good happens to you, write it down. Or even little things that are good that happen to you, like, gosh, I don't know, when this is all over, we're going to have some great perspective, but things like, I got a haircut today are going to feel really great because there's going to be some time that we didn't have that option. So when you have things that happen to you that feel good or that you're grateful for, write it down, if that's in a journal or a jar or whatever. And then it gives you something to reflect on and something for you to be able to see a physical manifestation of those things that you're grateful for. But studies show that gratitude and practicing gratitude actually makes you happier, like literally makes you happier. So being a more grateful person does a lot for both your mental health, for your happiness, and actually for your physical health too. So gratitude is a big deal. And this, like I said, can take a ton of formats. And so if you're not a journaling kind of a person, maybe spend a couple days writing people emails and just saying, hey, you know what? I am really grateful that I have you in my life. I am really grateful that you dropped a casserole at my door the other day. That was really nice of you. Just little things that you can do to express gratitude in some way, shape, or form. Okay. It's also really important right now to try to stay active. And I saw a lot of you guys threw this up on the word cloud. I probably would have if it was me too. Because I don't know about you guys, but somehow I feel like I have even less free time now than I did before. And I also really took for granted the fact that my office is in the Wildcat Center. And so, all I had to do was throw my workout gear on and walk outside my office and hop on a treadmill. And I don't have access to that anymore. So I feel really cooped up and I feel really inactive, and that doesn't feel great. But it's important to try to figure out a way to do that. So we already know physical activity is good for our physical health. I would hope we all know that. But it's really good for your mental health too. It's great for stress management. Some people call it meditation in motion. For me, when I'm feeling angry, it's the only time I ever crave a run. I hate running, but when I'm angry, I just want to just run as hard as I can and express that anger through motion and through physical activity. And it, like I said, it helps get your brain into the same kind of waves as meditation. And so if you're not the kind of person who can sit with your thoughts for a long period of time, that's fine. And for some people, especially if you have a history of trauma, we don't want you to sit with your thoughts. So if you can't do that, don't. And if being active helps you and it feels good, then do that. That's great. It also helps to really boost your mood. It improves your sleep. And if your sleep improves, then it's like a domino effect and everything improves. Because it gives you endorphins. Endorphins are like a natural high. They are wonderful. And for me, when I'm doing cardio, they kick in at about the 20-minute mark. And once you notice those endorphins kicking in, that is like the best motivator to exercise. Once you're like, yeah, this feels awesome, I want to keep going. So it's really good for your entire body and brain. But right now we have to be a lot more intentional about that physical activity, but there still are lots of ways to be physically active. So you could make time for a walk, whether that's putting it on your schedule or creating like an alarm to go off on your phone to remind you, oh yeah, I've completely lost all sense of time right now, but it is time to get up and go for a walk. Do what you need to do to prompt yourself to go and exercise. There's tons and tons of online workouts available. I started looking at all the different resources that have become available, but there's too many to list. So if you like doing like Zumba, or you like, gosh, I don't even know what, there's a workout video for you online right now, I promise it. You could even do things like taking a wiggle break. So every couple hours or whatever, get up and just wiggle your whole body. And that can be just a fun way to get all your joints moving, to get everything moving, and just to stay a little bit active. Along with that, we also want to make sure that we're getting a little bit of sunlight. Our worlds have all just gotten a lot smaller. And it's not helpful if that small world does not include sunshine. Our brains need sunshine. It helps to regulate your circadian rhythm, which helps to regulate your sleep cycles, and your sleep cycles are everything, and they're crucial for you to be able to get a good night's sleep. So if you're in your house and you're in a place that you're not getting any sunlight right now, you're gonna really start to feel that. I mean, obviously we have no data to support this because we've never been in this situation before in our life, but I'm a little bit concerned that right about the time of year that we should be seeing seasonal affect disorder drop, I'm afraid that we're going to start to see it linger or even increase for some people, and we don't want to do that. So try to find ways to let that sunlight in whatever way you can. And be intentional about that as well, so that we can boost that serotonin in your brain and get those benefits from sunshine. So maybe for you, if you can go outside to the extent that you can, do that. Be mindful about that. If you can't go outside, then open a window. Make sure that you're letting light into the room that you're in, and do what you can to have that sunlight exposure. Okay, so we also want to make sure right now that we're creating a routine. The first week that we were all stuck at home, I was like, whatever, I'm fine. This makes my life more flexible. You know what? It doesn't. It really didn't. And me not having a routine that first week was not fun. So this is the routine that I developed. This is my routine sitting on my fridge right now that I actually created for me and my kids, because I have work and school and they have school. And so we all need to be on task and doing what we need to be doing, and we need to be on our routine. So this is up on my fridge right now. It's color coded. And for anybody that knows me, you know how much I like color coding. But it just helps me visually at a glance to be able to see what we need to be doing. But these routines establish some structure and some normalcy, and that helps create some comfort and provide a level of stability that we feel like we're lacking in the rest of the world right now. So this can be a really important tool. Some good things to build in: make sure you're waking up and going to bed at normal times. I know it's probably tempting to give in to your night owl tendencies. I know for me, it's gotten the best of me a couple nights. But it doesn't help in the long run. So try to make sure you're going to bed and waking up at normal times. Get up and get ready. For the first week, I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to wear nothing but stretchy pants, and I'm not blow drying my hair, and I'm not doing makeup. And then I started getting messages after Zoom calls of people being like, are you doing okay? Are you sick? Because I really just didn't look like myself. So get up, get ready, take care of yourself. Do those things that you would normally do. Also make sure that you're having some consistent meal times, because it can be tempting to either not eat or to eat way too much. I don't know if you guys have seen the memes going around on the internet about like how we're all going to gain a ton of weight after the coronavirus quarantine, because it's easy to just sit there and snack constantly, and that's not good for your health either. So have some consistent meal times. Build those in so that you're maintaining that normalcy too. Provide yourself some structured breaks. So like I said, if it needs to be on your phone to just remind you like, hey, I'm still here, get up, go moving, get away from your screen for a minute, build that into your schedule. Schedule and cleaning, because I know when you're home, it's easy to be like, I'm gonna go do a load of laundry right now at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then before you know it, you're like, well, crap, I didn't get any work done. So make sure you've scheduled that in. You're not tempted to clean constantly if you're the kind of person who would do that. And then work and school time, but also schedule when those times need to end. I have caught myself way too many times these last 3 weeks being like, oh look, it's 8 o'clock at night and I haven't spent any actual like quality time with my family because I've just been sitting here working because there's nothing to tell me to stop and to go. Schedule in that physical activity if you need it. Schedule in some phone calls and virtual connections, and also schedule in some self-care. Make sure that you're taking a couple moments to really take care of yourself every day. So right now we can feel really socially isolated, and that's totally normal, but we also have the wonderful technology to be able to connect virtually. So if you haven't done this yet and you haven't been intentional about doing this, then make it a point to do it at least once this week to check in. So my mom is actually cooped up at home right now by herself. She has stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, and it's actually metastasized to her brain. So she's extremely high risk right now. She cannot leave, she cannot get exposed, and we can't go over there and keep her company. And so I worry about her being really cooped up at home. So my kids call her and FaceTime with her multiple times a week so that hopefully it's brightening up her day a little bit and making her feel a little bit less lonely. So if you know any people out there who are are high risk and alone, they're great people to include. But just connecting with anybody is a great person to connect with. You know, how long has it been since you saw your best friend's face and not just texted with them? Give them a call. Give them a FaceTime, get on Zoom, hang out with your friends over Zoom. I don't know what you would do, but come up with something to do with your friends over Zoom. I saw some of my friends had a virtual cooking session with their family members the other day. So we can really get creative with ways that we can still connect virtually. So keep in mind that social distancing does not mean the same thing as social isolation. We really just want to stay physically away from people, but that doesn't mean that we need to isolate. We don't need to become, you know, complete hermits and not have any social interaction. So if you need more help than any of these things that we've just talked about today, there's more help that you could ever imagine right in the palm of your hand. There are a ton of apps, and I started kind of listing off some of them, and then I was like, you know what, you guys have phones, you guys have Google, you can figure them out. Some that people like to use most frequently, there's a app called Calm. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, but I've seen that a lot lately. There's a ton that are like that too. So if you find one that you like, cool. If you try one and you're like, gosh, the voice of this person is driving me batty, that's fine. There are only certain guided meditations I can listen to because sometimes I'm focusing more on how irritating the voice is, and that's really not helping me relax. And so that's fine if you're like, this isn't working for me. Take what works, leave what doesn't. So if apps help you, they're there. There's an app for that, I promise. There's also a program called Tao, and that's from the Counseling Center. It's free online self-help. There's a module in there for probably whatever ails you, and it's really helpful. You can do that at any time of the day, whether it's 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, whatever it is. You can access that whenever you need it, and it's free. So you can find full lists of apps that make you feel mentally healthier on the Counseling Center's website, along with that Tao program. And their website is weber.edu/counseling center. If you're looking for something specific though, and I didn't touch on it, or you need it in whatever way, shape, or form, maybe it is like saying, I need an app for physical activity. I need an app to help me cook with what's in my pantry. I don't know if it specifically exists, but I'll find it for you. So again, just email me at, okay, Wally, thank you, at studentwellness@weber.edu, and I'll help you find what you need. So practice really makes perfect. So managing your stress takes both practice and intention. It's not something that you can just be like, oh, I'm going to do it as needed. Be intentional about it. Make sure that you're taking some time every day to do something to care for yourself. So this image over here is, like I said, I like to follow positive people on Instagram. So this is from one called Blessing Manifesting, and she posts these things all the time that are just nice little reminders. And so this one popped up the other day, and I thought that was really apropos to what we're talking about today. But think of some way, shape, or form that you can take care of yourself, and it doesn't need to be intense. It doesn't need to be a full-on bubble bath with music and candles. It could literally just be, I'm making sure that I'm drinking enough water today, and that's how I'm taking care of myself. Whatever it is, make sure that you're doing something every day to take care of yourself. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of homework. So for this next week, I want you to pick at least 5 of the strategies that we've talked about, or I want you to make a list of at least 5 things that work for you when you're stressed out that you can implement over the course of the week. And then I want you to do it. Okay. Now keep an open mind, because you might have heard me talk about some of these things and thought, yeah, no, that's not for me. I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. Or you might try it and you might be like, this meditation thing sucks, or this emotion check sucks and I hate doing this. It might be hard the first time, and that's okay, but persist at it, keep an open mind, and it's going to get easier. So try it more than once or twice. If at that point it's really not working for you, let it go. That's fine. Like I said, for me, I don't love meditation, and I could get better at it, but I don't have to either, because I have other things that work for me. So if you have other tools, that's great. We really just want to get a variety of tools built into our toolbox. And at the end of the day, you guys, you got this. You're going to get through it. You can handle stress. You are strong, tough people. You've handled stress before. You got this. Okay. So I found this, I don't know if you guys have seen people sharing this on social media lately, but it just kind of made me feel better the other day. So I thought I'd share it with you if you haven't seen this. So it says, I know this, when this ends, and it will, every restaurant will be packed, the market will skyrocket up, every sports game will sell out, every kid will be glad to be in school, everyone will love their job, every fifth house will be teepeed because we'll have all that extra toilet paper, and we'll embrace and shake hands. And that's going to be a pretty good day. So even if it helps you to think about all the things that maybe you didn't like before that you're going to really embrace now, it's going to be there. And just imagine how great it's going to be to be able to come back to campus and see all of our classmates and all of our coworkers and to be together again physically in the same space. And so that day is going to come and we're going to just really embrace it with open arms, and it's going to be really wonderful. So okay, like I said, keep in mind we are here for you. Even though we're not physically in our office, we're still here for you. So if there's something more that you need, you can either email studentwellness@weber.edu. That's an easy one to remember. Or you can email us specifically. So you can email me. There's my email right there. My name's kind of tricky for people to spell, so it's right there. Or you can also email Justin. He's my program specialist at justinherbert@weber.edu. So Justin wasn't able to join us today, but to give a little bit of background for him, Justin graduated from Weber State a few years back in the health promotion program. So he's a Weber State alumni. He's also finishing up his master's in education right now at Weber. So he's a student as well. So he knows the struggle. And he was a former student athlete. He was on the track team. And so he kind of understands what it's like to really be a Weber State student in every aspect of it. So, and he, understands different things than I would understand. So we're both here for you. And if you feel like you would connect with either one of us more than the other, neither one of us will take offense if you email one versus the other. So please reach out. We're also available on Google Messenger. So if you want to reach out on Messenger, please feel free to do that, and we can return your messages. So really just feel free to reach out. So we've gone just a touch over, but I don't want to leave you guys hanging. And so if anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute your mic and ask.
We'll actually have people, if you have any questions, if you could submit them through the chat. I got a lot of great comments. Lulu said that, Miss Betty said this was super helpful and wonderful reminder on what I need to focus on and share with students, friends, and family. Yes, so thank you, Miss Betty. So this presentation has actually been recorded. So I will work on uploading it to the Facebook calendar invitation. I will also share this with Rochelle, and we could put it, we could try to figure out or ask Danny if she could put it on our web pages as well, and what kind of access we have to that. So other folks, if other folks ask you how they are able to get the presentation, if they weren't able to hop on today, that will be an option. Lulu says she had to log off to meet with a student, but thank you so much for this webinar, super helpful information. Let's see, if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to type them in. I'll wait a couple minutes. Thank you, this was very helpful. We'll try the 5 suggestions. Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay, well, thank you guys all so much for having me. And if there's anything that we can do to help you guys through these stressful times, or even when things go back to normal, a year from now, if you're thinking, oh, I'd like to bring this presentation to class and have the normal version, we're happy to do that too. So just let us know whatever you guys need.
Thank you, Rochelle. I think this was a fabulous presentation and a great way to kick off our virtual programming for diversity and inclusive programs. I know I found the tip of learning how to breathe properly super helpful. So thank you so much for this presentation again. Thank you again for all of you for joining us. As Rochelle said, we should be conscious of what we're grateful for. I'm so grateful for all of you being able to be here with us today And I hope that you can find something spectacular that happened to you today. So thank you so much, everybody. And with that being said, you're welcome to leave the room. You're welcome, Miss Betty. And thank you all so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.